Welcome to the Diversity Report podcasts, where we interview the movers and shakers and diverse innovators that are shaping our future. I'm Deborah Levine, your podcast host and editor of the American Diversity Report. With me today is David Blair, the co-founder and former executive director of Mariposa Museum and World Cultural Center. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
A pleasure to have you here to talk about this beautiful museum that you and your wife, Linda, and a dear friend, co-founded years ago in Peterborough, New Hampshire. Tell us what it looks like, what people find when they go there.
Mariposa is, from the outside, a traditional New England brick building. You can see that it was a church. There are granite steps that lead up from the street level to the second floor. And that, in fact, was where the Baptists used to walk into their sanctuary upstairs. And down below are two spaces with large windows that they used to rent out as retail spaces. When you walk in the door now, what you find is a gift shop with gifts from all around the world. Then on the left side, as you on the ground floor, you find a room that is a library and an activity room and a kitchen and a meeting place, which is where we do many of our classroom activities. It's when you walk upstairs that you get your big surprise, because what has been a sanctuary, a newspaper publishing office, a ballet student, a marionette opera theater is now a beautiful display exhibit area and performance space that was redesigned by Linda and our friend Tom Weller, an architect, who had to figure out what to do with a building that had been destroyed by fire on New Year's Day of 1999. The interior was entirely burned. Fortunately, the brick walls did not fall in or out, and we were able to renovate the building as a display space and, again, an exhibit and performance area. There's a lovely area that is open, where people can meet and hear song, music, watch dance, listen to talks, watch movies, and around it, in cases and on panels, are exhibits which are changing every several months. The upstairs is a mezzanine, an area, again, for more exhibit, but also where we house a collection of world instruments that people are welcome to play. So it's a very colorful, light area with beautiful acoustics and a lovely place to watch or hear a performance and also to browse. We are a museum for all ages, not just for children, and we have a lot for children to do. As we are a hands-on museum, we believe that by touching things and using things gently and with respect, we can learn more about our neighbors in the world.
Wonderful. So tell us how you and Linda came up with this idea.
Linda and I were school teachers from the early 70s on. We came to New Hampshire to go to graduate school in education, and we stayed. She worked with Head Start. I worked in the public schools for about 20 years. And we worked in many different, I worked in many different schools, and we both saw, she from her Head Start perspective, a real cross-section of New Hampshire. New Hampshire is now a very diverse state in our cities. The area we live in, the southwest corner called the Monadnock region, is more diverse than it used to be. But that isn't saying a lot. If you work in the schools, you see the shift clearly, but on the streets, what you see are mostly white people who themselves are very diverse, Greeks, Finns, Italians, from many different backgrounds, but the diversity is somewhat hidden and doesn't represent what you would find in Manchester, New Hampshire, for instance, where there are like 50 languages or so spoken in the schools. So we were aware as we brought our children up, who were born shortly after we graduated, that if we wanted them to see more of the world, we might need to go out into the world. And that's what we did. We traveled, we spent 6 months in China when our oldest child was just 8 years old. We shortly after went and spent 2.5 years in the Philippines working at the Philippine Refugee Processing Center, which was a very large facility that housed sometimes as many as 14,000 refugees from Southeast Asia who were on their way to the United States. They'd been approved for resettlement, but spent 6 months in the Philippines learning language, work, and school skills to prepare them for an easier entry into life in the U.S. And then in the early 90s, Linda and I and Anna and Sam went to Vietnam, where Linda and I were co-directors for the American Friends Service Committee, or Quaker Service Vietnam. We developed projects in rural villages with the help of our Vietnamese staff and experts that would help raise the standard of living and the food security for villagers, both of Vietnamese ethnicity and also minorities in the Northwest. Those experiences really opened our eyes and our hearts to realities that we just did not see here in New Hampshire. They were very important to Linda and me, and also to our children. Linda was a collector, and we came back from those trips with things, toys, clothing, eating implements, sometimes ceremonial objects that we found on the streets, very often in small shops in Hanoi or across the Philippines. Now, Linda and I had both been trained to teach in an experiential way, using objects to teach math or science or language. And when we returned, we decided we'd try using some of what we'd collected to offer an educational experience to the children and the teachers in our school district. We'd learned early on that many children, many families didn't travel much here, especially lower income families and for those children, often a trip to Boston might be as far away as they got from home during their school career. We wanted to offer a window to the world that would that simply wasn't available other than possibly through books. But books are not the same as things, as objects, as clothing that you can put on, or musical instruments that you can play. And so we began to do small exhibits in a school district gallery. We wrote curriculum, we trained student docents, we offered this for free and scheduled in teachers with the help of the school district staff to come to this small gallery and have an experience of first of Vietnam, and then later we borrowed objects from other people in the area who'd been to Japan and did an exhibit on Japan, and then we borrowed even more to do one on Africa. This is an area with many retired people who've traveled a lot and sometimes worked overseas, and who were generous in lending things. And what we discovered is that teachers and children loved these experiences. They were colorful and real and animated, and also that we were very good at this, that we enjoyed it too. It might have stayed there, but for the fire that I mentioned, which gutted this building, a building where Linda had had a fabric and clothing store for close to 20 years. The store continues in a different location.
Yes, yeah. I do. And I bought stuff there.
Yes, indeed. So we, at that point, it would have been the building was empty for several years. Nobody could figure out what to do with it. And then one February in winter, Linda said, let's open a museum. And I said, okay. We had no idea what we were doing, which I think was fortunate. Had we known, we probably wouldn't have dared. Kind of like parenthood, if we really knew what we were getting into, would we be so eager to have that first child? Well, but thank goodness we go in with courage and a little ignorance, and something wonderful happens. So we raised money, renovated the building, and within a year and a half of Linda suggesting that we have a museum, we opened Mariposa. That was on the 1st of July in 2002. So we're approaching our 15th birthday.
Wonderful.
So that was a long answer, but it was a coming together of our interest in education, our love of travel, our ability to use objects to tell stories about other people and other cultures, and the opportunity that this beautiful but destroyed building offered. It was asking for a vision, and Linda had that vision, and I was fortunate to be able to help her to make it real.
My goodness. I'm just in awe of what the two of you created and what is ongoing. And I saw that you had this wonderful program bringing in Buddhist monks to work on mandalas and let the students work with them. Tell us about that one.
Every couple of years, on average, we have hosted a group of Tibetan monks who are living in exile in southern India. There are at least 2 large monasteries there. And it's the Drepung Gomang Monastery whom we've usually hosted. They have a group, it might be 8 or 9 or 10 monks, who tour North America, and they stop usually for a week in each place. They tour in a van or a small bus, and when they stop, they create a sand mandala. It might be a mandala for peace. It might be the mandala of compassion. It could be a healing medicine mandala. The sand mandalas, as I think you know, are temporary creations. They are very gorgeous, beautiful, intricate designs created with colored sand that is dribbled onto a background, a board, over the design is built up. It starts in the center and it moves outward until it is finally complete, which takes about 5 days usually. These are traditional designs, although they are, as in any folk art and religious art, they are evolving. They create new ones. And at the end of this process, and it's one that people observe, we have a space in the upstairs, the center of that performance area where they set up and create this. And we have people who come in during the week. We have an opening ceremony, and then they begin work. And people watch this amazing design grow from this small central rosette out to this intricate, beautiful creation. At the end, when it is finished, there is another ceremony when they again don their traditional robes and chant and play their horns. And then the most shocking event then happens. They ritually cut the mandala with a dorje, one of the ritual objects, sweep it up into a big pile. All that beautiful colored sand becomes a heap of brown sand, and we then process to the river, where they pour the sand in as they chant. The sand has absorbed the blessings of their creation and of the deities who inhabit the mandala, and the river then carries those blessings out to the world. The idea of creating something beautiful which you then destroy is breathtaking, particularly the first time you see it. But it's the Buddhist teaching that nothing is permanent. Everything changes. Everything is in transition. It's a very good teaching, and it is just a striking event. And we have had them, I'd say again, on average every second year. They're a delight to be with, and on occasion they have invited children to come, not to do the most intricate parts, but to see how they can fill an area in with a solid color. And that is really wonderful. In a sense, everybody who watches, though, is a participant. We may not be holding the tools and applying the sand, but we're all sharing that same meditative space, and we're creating it together. The same thing, I see a parallel. We've also had Sufi twirlers, those who are called sometimes whirling dervishes, though that's not what they call themselves. And twirling in the Sufi religion is a meditative act, and we who are there watching it are really not spectators. We are in some way participants. So events like that have a sacred quality that, for me, remains in the building. After the monks leave or the twirlers go on, I feel like they leave some of that spirit. It just remains with us, and so the space becomes richer and richer every year.
My goodness. Well, it sounds wonderful, and I'm sure that those who are there in person are touched by it deeply, especially the youngsters. What do they say about that?
The young people, all people we all become young in a sense when we're watching the mandala form, but we do have school groups come in, and they are fascinated. The children are fascinated to see the concentration, the devotion, the ability of the monks even to assume a physical position that to us would be very painful, to be working from a cross-legged position and bending low over this mandala with this intense concentration and in quiet, and how different that is from our digital, fast-paced world. It's like a balm. Children and adults, we just kind of relax into a different kind of a space when we're there. And children, I haven't talked to many children after this event. We just are kind of sharing silence and some sense of wonder at what we are seeing.
Yes.
But I can see that they are touched, they are impressed, and amazed. And of course, my grandchildren have been at the closing ceremony and walked with the monks to the river, and it feels very sacred. It's something, when you do it, you don't even need to talk about it so much as just to feel that this is something very special.
This is quite a community that you are building of appreciation of the world in ways that many of us just don't get to experience. How wonderful.
It is wonderful. It's
it is. And
a privilege to be part of it, for sure.
Is there anything else you'd like to add for our audience, what they might know, something coming up at the museum that they might like to hear about?
Sure. We have, from our start, had a strong current of loving and appreciating folk art and celebrating differences between cultures, and also looking for what we share. Our education program is very much focused on, which is primarily with young children, but also with seniors and with high school students and sometimes college and graduate students, looking for ways to use objects to tell stories, to bring us closer to our own stories and to open us to the stories of others. We also have a strong social justice theme or stream going through our programming back to the beginning, but particularly in these last 5 years with our new director. We've done more and more programming. Sometimes these are talks about the refugee crisis in Europe or refugee resettlement in the state of New Hampshire. We have an upcoming talk on June the 1st about civil rights in New Hampshire with a representative from the ACLU and the American Friends Service Committee in New Hampshire, looking at immigrant rights, voting rights, LGBTQ rights, a broad spectrum of issues that fall under civil rights. We've done films in partnership with our community theater, most recently one on the discovery of an African burial ground in Portsmouth, which is a reminder that the history of the North is not free of slavery. It's a convenient fiction that all in the North were abolitionists while slavery was a Southern institution. That is not true. And more, we've been able to do programs that illuminate our own history. We had a slave-owning family a slave trading family from Rhode Island that's been doing very courageous work to uncover their own history as perhaps the major slave traders in the Atlantic slave trade. Our work is to open our minds and our hearts to all the rich variety of our history and our culture, and that includes some things that we may not be too comfortable talking about, but it's crucial to be able to have those conversations, to be able to see the world through the eyes and walk in the shoes of perhaps feel through the heart of someone who on the face of it is very different from us, to open in that way to our neighbors in the world, including in our very own community. There are such divisions within an apparently not very diverse New England town. There are ethnic differences, there are religious differences, political, very important class differences, and our hope is that Mariposa is a place where we can experience together what it means to share a community and to include in our own lives the realities of people possibly very different from us.
Well, thank you very much. It sounds like something that Linda would do. We've known each other for many, many years now and share these altruistic leanings for sure. And
yes.
Wonderful to see them come to fruition in Mariposa. And I urge all of our audience to take a trip to Peterborough and spend some time at Mariposa enjoying the exhibits and the programs.
Yes, and you can visit us virtually at mariposamuseum.org. If you live far away and are not planning a trip to southwestern New Hampshire in the near future, you can drop in that way.
Wonderful. Technology meets folklore.
Yes, indeed.
Well, thank you so much, David, for sharing all of this with our audience. And audience, thank you for tuning in. It's always a pleasure.